Hello, second graders. Today we're going to be reviewing inferencing. Here's another wordless picture book by David Wisner. This is Flotsam. Flotsam, when you look it up, is the wreckage of a ship or cargo and found floating or washed up by the sea. So that's a fun tidbit. Also, I talked about wordless picture books before. I would say it's more of a subgenre, and there's another aspect of a type of genre in this book. It is a fiction book, but see if you can figure out what type of fiction it is as we go. As we read, we are going to be filling out this chart where we start inferencing using the text or pictures from the book along with our schema or own knowledge, and then making an inference about what's going on and understanding or comprehending the story. At the beginning, we can see a boy on a beach digging and putting things in buckets. He's looking closely at one kind of crab that he finds. And then we see that he's using a magnifying glass to look at another kind of crab. We also see other observation tools available. He has a microscope there and binoculars. We're going to start to use our chart here to show our thinking. So first of all, I said that I saw the boy looking closely at two different crabs. We could view that right in the book. Then I can use my schema. I know that tools like magnifying glasses, a microscope, and binoculars are used to observe objects or look closely at them. So then I can infer that must mean that the boy is very curious and likes to explore. As the story continues, we see the boy continuing to explore, and he gets knocked over by a wave. But then he notices that the wave brought something else into shore. He picks up this box and sees the print, Melville Underwater Camera, written on it. I remember times when I had cameras as a kid, and we used to have film instead of digital printing. So you would have to go to the store and get the pictures developed there. So the boy gets to a film shop to get it developed and buys more film along the way. I can see at the bottom of the screen how there's a series of pictures that show the boy waiting and waiting and waiting. Picture part that got cut off is where it said 1 hour photo. So it must have seemed like a long time for the boy to get the pictures back. The boy runs back to the beach and then starts checking out the photos. I can infer by the way he's looking closely at them and the look of his mouth dropped open that he sees something astonishing. And then as we see him look closer at the photos and we get to see some of them close up ourselves, we see amazing sights of a robotic fish, an octopus holding story time, tiny aliens like we saw in the other book, exploring with some seahorses, and giant sea stars, larger than those whales pictured. Imagine they look like islands that can just get up and move wherever they want to. Let's record another inference. So from the text, we saw that the boy finds a box that has the words underwater camera on it. I remember that when film used to have to be developed, and so I can infer that maybe this camera is really old. As the boy looks at more photos, he comes across one of a person, holding a photo of a person, holding a photo of a person. Look closely at the part where there's a circle. I've circled someone wearing stripes. And as we look at the next photo, you can see those same stripes where we see another section of the photo even closer and closer. And then off to the left side, we can see that he's using the magnifying glass, that circular edge, for that. He sets aside the magnifying glass and we see him checking out the photo using a microscope. Notice the little numbers with X's next to the circular photos. Those are showing the power, not like we think of power as in plugged in, but as he turns the knobs on the microscope, that gives his eyes that much more power to see those photos. So he gets closer and closer and closer with the higher power. I also notice in those photos that they become black and white, and that the people in the photos appear to have more and more old-fashioned clothing as the pictures get more fine. Also notice in the last picture that boy is not holding a photo. I can infer from that he must have been the first photo taken. Let's make one more inference. The photos from the camera showed robotic fish and giant sea star islands. In my schema, I can see that the photo of the person holding a photo, holding a person of a person, holding a photo of a person, holding a photo. Under the microscope, he sees that the black and white photos and the more old-fashioned clothes. I know that probably means that those pictures are older. So I can infer that the camera has been taking underwater images for a long time. I see in the top picture that it looks like his parents might have packed everything up and are pointing that they're leaving the beach. He looks down at his photos and the camera and decides to use a stick and have it all propped up to take one last picture of himself holding the photos. A wave comes in and splashes him as he takes the shot. Then we see that he's throwing the camera out back into the sea for its next journey. Here's just a couple of snapshots of the camera's journey as a whale watches it drift past and seahorses drag it. It ends up with penguins and more, and then finally a girl sees it wash up on her shore. I hope you enjoyed inferencing with David Weisner's book Flotsam. I love the detail that he puts into each illustration, each photograph that went deeper and deeper and deeper into the next photograph and next photograph, where he could apply that detail into that next photograph and make us believe that this was really happening. Also notice that the detail that he puts into those pictures and illustrations told the story so much that he didn't need the words. So when we were inferencing and we didn't have to be told a lot, we could figure it out with our schema and infer so much just from that. At the beginning, we talked about the genre of this book. It's not only a wordless picture book, but it is also fiction. I asked, what type of fiction is this book? So by looking at this one snapshot from the book, what do you think is the genre of this book? If you're saying that it's a fantasy because animals can't really read stories to each other, and that there's a lot of far-fetched images in this book, then good job. Okay, second graders, it's your turn to use your new comprehension skill of inferencing as you read. So you'll find a form like this to fill out in your homework and read or listen to the book that we suggest. Enjoy.